We're here at Narrandipoo National Park, Tasmania's savannah, to check out the Bennett's Wallaby. The Bennett's Wallaby has a scientific name, Macropus rufogorrhesus. Now, scientific names are pretty interesting. They're not just for boffins, they're quite descriptive. Macropus refers to big foot, and like all kangaroos, it's got 4 toes. It sort of sits in that position there. These two are fused partially, and they're called the synductal claw. They're on the back, and they can be used for grooming. By being double, they can pluck out parasites. This middle one is called the fighting claw, and this is really important because they use it to combat each other for the right to mate. The males ruck pretty heavily. Rufogorrhesus is just as descriptive. It describes their coloration. Bennett's wallabies and paddymellons have got this mottled black, dark brown and light brown coloration that's perfect camouflage throughout most areas of Tasmania. That coloration is vital, particularly in an area like Narrandipoo, where you've got one of the highest remaining population densities of Tasmanian devils. There's predators absolutely everywhere trying to eat you. The coloration, the camouflage, allows them to sit in these areas of bracken fern. It's nice and dense, and it protects them during the day. In the evening, they come out into the lawn areas and graze. Bennett's wallabies, despite being characterised by that beautiful rufous coloration and a red panel across the back of the neck, can come in different colour morphs. Check out this sandy coloured one that I filmed at Cradle Mountain. The Bennett's wallaby, by weight, is the 3rd largest species that we have in Tasmania. First, you've got the eastern grey kangaroo. It's a close relative. Then the wombat, and then Bennett's wallaby. They're about 800 high and around 16 to 20 kilograms in weight. Males are obviously much larger than the females. Common names can be the bane of your existence. Tasmania's got 3 macropods. Eastern grey, it's the big one. Same species that occurs on the mainland. Locally, we call it the forester, which is odd because it doesn't live in the forest. 2, the Bennett's wallaby. Locals often call that grey roo. Again, totally odd, totally bizarre because it's not a kangaroo. And 3, the paddymellon, which can also be called the rufous wallaby. Between Bennett's wallaby and rufous wallaby, there's a lot of confusion as well. Whoa, wait a minute, I hear you say. What's the difference between a kangaroo and a wallaby? Well, that one's pretty easy. Structurally, kangaroos have got longer front limbs and longer jaw bones. The easy rule is, kangaroos are bigger and they live in a mob or a herd. They're a true social animal, they've got an alpha male. Bennett's wallabies and other wallabies are solitary. Bennett's wallabies have a fairly even distribution throughout most of Tasmania, but as a general rule, they do better in the alpine environment, so Ben Lomond, Mount Field, Mount Wellington, Cradle Mountain, than what the paddymellons do. Interestingly though, as you go higher, they tend to get smaller, which may indicate that the vegetation in this region is less nutritious. One of the characteristic features of the macropods is their bounding gait. Their tracks are very, very interesting. When they're on the move, all you can see is the fighting claw and the synductal claw as an imprint. So they're bouncing, they're using the claws for grip. If it was stationary, it'd be totally different. This is really poor, I know, but we have been in drought and mud's fairly difficult to find. You might be able to see the main toe or the fighting claw. This one here is the fused double claw or the synductal claw. The pad goes all the way back here, so that automatically tells you that the wallaby was stationary. it was a wallaby tail, like all marsupials, it would have its fat there, at the base. Most Bennett's wallabies are born in January after a 36-day gestation. They're in the pouch for 9 months, and then they're at the foot for about the same period of time. The macropods have this extraordinary adaptation. They live on the plains, which can be subject to flooding, fire and drought. They have 2 nipples in their forward-facing pouch, and they'll usually have a pinky on one teat and a fully furred young at the foot suckling on the other teat. Even though they've got 2 teats, so they can have a maximum of 2 young, they're at different stages of development that allows them to adapt to their environment much better. Things that really annoy me about marsupials is this obsession that people have with whether the animal has got a rearward facing pouch or a forward facing pouch. Macropods walk on 2 legs. They have a forward facing pouch, which means the young enter through the front legs. Something like a wombat has got a rearward facing pouch, which means the young enter through the back legs. This has always been said, forward facing so the young don't fall out when they jump. Rearward facing so that it doesn't fill with dirt when they dig. Most 4-legged marsupials have got a rearward facing pouch. Very few dig. Sounds like bollocks. The fetus is fused to the teat until it has fur, so regardless of whether it's forward or backward, it can't fall out because it can't let go of the teat that it's suckling from. In my understanding, it's all to do with the position of the organs and the concave of the pelvis, whether it's forward or back facing pouch. Bennetts, like all grazers, have got a fairly typical herbivore scat. Bennetts are a diprotodon. They've got a pair of incisors top and bottom that holds the grass while they grind it off with their molars. By grinding it down rather than chewing it, it gives it a greater surface area to volume ratio, and it allows the bacteria to work on it as best as it can. They're also called a hindgut fermenter. So instead of being an ungulate like a sheep or a cow, where all the fermentation goes on in the stomachs, the fermentation goes on in the large intestine. You've got both wallaby species. 2 at the back are the smaller paddymmelon. The one at the front is the Bennett's wallaby. Like most marsupials in Tasmania, she's out during the day. They're what we call crepuscular, dawn dusk, not nocturnal. The more common a species, the more it tends to get hit by cars. Bennett's wallabies are one of the more common species we've got in Tasmania, and they estimate that tens of thousands of wallabies get killed a year. I wish more people would take care.